This is going to seem like a very niche video, but I actually don't think it is. I think a lot of people are struggling with Instagram story preoccupation. I did some anecdotal research. I interviewed my friends for this video, and I was shocked to hear how similar the things they were struggling with were. They told me that they're obsessed with checking whether a specific person or people that they have in mind have viewed their Instagram stories. And the experience of being preoccupied by who has seen it causes them a lot of distress in a way that is taking away from their quality of life. They are frequently romantic interests, either an ex or a situationship or someone that they want more with. But it could also be a friend that they're kind of in a cold war with. Regardless of which one it is, they're checking to see if this person has viewed their story, like several times a day, maybe multiple times an hour. And it was becoming incredibly distressing because it was taking up a lot of their energy and like their brain power, right? Like they were sometimes checking multiple times an hour, but they also expressed shame for caring this much. Like they felt like something was wrong with them. They felt crazy. They knew that logically it didn't really matter if this person checked. They understood at some level that this was a superficial metric. And yet they couldn't stop thinking about it. And they said that they hated that they're doing this because the only way they could get relief is by knowing if that person viewed their story and therefore thought of them. And I've gone over this with my friends, and what I'm realizing is they all think their issue is a self-control issue. But it goes so much beyond that. Self-control is not really even a part of it at all. They kept telling themselves, like, I just need to stop checking. And that's incredibly unhelpful advice. So today we're going to jump into this very specific problem of what's actually going on and the steps you can take to stop it. If you want even more help, I've put together a free workbook that will help you audit yourself in this area. You will get it if you sign up using the link in my description to my newsletter, where I send all of the stuff I'm thinking about, what I'm learning when it comes to life, relationships, self-love, self-expression, so much more. The stuff that's not quite ready for a video gets a newsletter. It's like, it's cooking. You get to see the process. So thank you so much for supporting me. Consider subscribing if you like this kind of content, and let's get into it. Let me start by saying there's nothing wrong with you if you identify with what I'm talking about here. It makes perfect sense that you would be preoccupied by your story views. Now, that doesn't mean this behavior is good for you, but it's not a sign that you're defective or anything. Like I said, my friends expressed feeling a lot of shame around this, and I want to address what is happening here and why they're feeling this way and why they're doing this. And what makes this so exhausting is that it's not just one feeling. If you relate to this, essentially, you're stuck going in an emotional circle. Every single time you check, you go through one of two cycles. First, there's this tiny hit of anticipation where you think, maybe they watched, maybe they thought of me at least once today. So let's say you check and they didn't see it. So now you have to wait however long your body lets you to check again to see if they've watched your story again. But the cycle does not end if you see that they viewed your story, but they haven't reached out to you. That's starting a different cycle. Like a new set of questions are now forming in your brain. What does it mean that they did watch but didn't reach out? Should I read into this? Should I reach out to them? How can I be flirty? And then you start to think about that. And you're right back to the beginning, waiting for the next time you can check or think about this person again. You're in this loop going from false hope to disappointment over and over again. And it's your brain keeping you trapped in avoidance because the anticipation feels like it might give you some relief, but the disappointment guarantees you'll need to check again. There's no escaping this loop as long as you are dependent on whether or not this person has thought of you. So you're in this chokehold over this person, and there's a lot of shame that something so small, or that even just something external from yourself, a person outside of you, has so much power over you. And if you've experienced this, I want to affirm that this makes perfect sense. So let's talk about why this makes perfect sense. We talked about this false hope, disappointment, overanalyzing loop that you can get into if you are preoccupied with your Instagram stories. But what I want to explain to you is why this is happening to you. Because People think it's about the person. People think it's about the story. They think it's about there were so many different things my friends attributed it to. But what I had to explain to them was it's not about that other person. You're using this as an avoidance mechanism. You're avoiding your feelings. And that's the most common thing we do as people. Think about it. You're avoiding by scrolling. You're avoiding by overeating. You're avoiding by shopping or spending too much money. There's so many things we do to avoid being in touch with our feelings. And this is just one of them. One thing I've noticed in myself, my audience, and also my friends is that a lot of us never learned how to handle the unknown, how to handle uncertainty. And we're using certain things, such as story views, to deal with how uncomfortable it feels not knowing where you stand with someone. So we're going to zoom out on this because you probably have more examples of this in your life other than Instagram stories. That freebie I mentioned in the beginning is going to help us zoom out. So go download it. The way I understand this is I did not realize I had developed certain behaviors that serve as emotional avoidance techniques, many of which I inherited from my environment as a child. And they were also frequently reinforced by my family and other adults when I was a child. So this can include perfectionistic achievement, which is reinforced by a lot of adults. It can be seeking and offering reassurance. A lot of people do that. We still do that for our friends instead of saying like, I think you can actually sit with this, not knowing. We say like, it's going to be okay. That's actually not helpful, especially for children. Another big one is avoiding activities that might not result in immediate mastery. And I think in the United States, we teach children that they need to be immediately good at something, otherwise they're stupid. And we take that on, and it is personal. I don't know how other countries or school systems teach kids, but I know that when we didn't immediately know the answers in school, our teacher would just be like, no, you're wrong, you're bad, you're not good at this. Like, we're moving on to a student that does know the answer immediately. I'm like, doesn't learning involve struggle? What? Some other big avoidance things are like avoiding making decisions, avoiding trying new things. All of these boil down to avoidance of an emotion, avoidance of feeling inferior, avoidance of feeling stupid, avoidance of feeling sad or uncomfortable, or just sitting with uncertainty. In very similar ways to checking whether someone has viewed your story, you are using like obsessions or like ruminations, compulsions, whatever word you want to use to describe this experience, you're using those as automatic ways your brain sidesteps feeling powerlessness and having to sit with uncertainty. What happens for a lot of people is we have at least one parent who is overly accommodating or outright conflict avoidant. And that parent reacted in a way that taught the child that their feelings of uneasiness around the unknown in the world was actually indicative of danger. Why would mom succumb to them so consistently, these concerns of what could go wrong? Why would she be so afraid of it if there weren't something validly threatening and worth avoiding in this situation? And so as children, we start to feel more and more convinced that our feelings of powerlessness or uncertainty were not possible to accept and feel and sit with those and be okay. We never saw it modeled for us. And so we took on what was modeled. At its core, what's happening here is we're thinking something bad is true, and thus I must manage or avoid it. So this is what's called a felt belief. It's a knowing that doesn't really come from evidence. It comes from something we feel to be true. And we have a lot of them, a lot of felt beliefs. A lot of us are just going off of our feelings most of the time rather than quote unquote evidence. And the most common felt belief in a relationship context is if this person is or is not doing X, Y, or Z, that means they don't care about me. So when we're talking about checking if the specific person has viewed your story, you're experiencing a felt belief. You're thinking if they saw my story and didn't respond, that means something bad. If they haven't viewed it yet, I'm already being forgotten. And because that belief feels true, your system treats it like an emergency. So you check because you're trying to disprove something that feels dangerous to you. So that's why saying don't check is kind of like saying Don't think about the tiger sitting in the next room. It doesn't work. Like people who give the advice of stop checking and just be okay with it. It doesn't work. Like your body is terrified. You're terrified, even if you don't realize it as fear. That's what it is. So how do we work on this? This is the annoying part. Remember, I deal with this too. I understand how frustrating what I'm about to tell you is. But the only way out is through. We're going to remember that together. Hold my hand. It's okay. We got this. You have to build your tolerance for uncertainty. The goal is to build your capacity to not check progressively over time. And I know that's not what you want to hear. You probably want me to give you a hack that gives you some immediate relief. But I haven't found that. Maybe some other YouTube guru can give you that. It's not me. I don't think that exists. And if you've ever tried to not do something that would give you immediate relief, you may feel your body start shaking. You may start feeling so incredibly uncomfortable because your body is quite literally agitating you to do something. It thinks you're in danger and it wants you to do something. And you have to learn to cognitively overwrite that danger signal in your body. It's reconditioning. It takes time. It takes patience and self-compassion. And I hate it too. I hate it. I do. I hate it. I hate that I have to give you this advice, but it's the only way. So think of it like a muscle. Right now, your tolerance for uncertainty is very low. You can only use 5-pound dumbbells to lift the weight. But every time you're checking, you've made your tolerance even weaker. So now you have to go back to 2 pounds, right? Every time you've avoided the feelings, you have taught yourself and your nervous system that this feeling is dangerous and we have to accommodate the danger. But every time you sit with the discomfort, you are basically rebuilding that muscle slowly and progressively. So then you can go up from 2 pounds to 5 pounds and then 5 pounds to 10 pounds. And you just can keep going as you experience more exposure. And I've built some exposure hierarchy for you to help us build that up. And by the way, this doesn't just apply to Instagram story checking. It applies to everything we talked about already. It could be like spending money. It could be eating food when you're emotional. It could be anything. So that hierarchy. Level 1 is delaying by replacing the behavior. So this is replacing one avoidance technique with another one that is a little healthier for you. It's the lowest hanging fruit to try to make this work. You're technically still avoiding the discomfort, but you're kind of exposing yourself to it more because it's not your avoidance of choice. You're breaking the specific Instagram checking ritual. So it's the gentlest entry point. When you feel the urge to check, you will set a timer. I recommend 5 minutes. If you feel like that's too long, 2 minutes works as well. And you can do anything. You can text a friend, you can call someone, you can watch a YouTube video. Make it anything that's like a step up from what you're trying to stop doing. So don't replace it with something harmful to you. One of my favorite things to do is to journal. And you don't even have to write anything profound or even anything. I will sit there, I will set a timer, sit there and write like, I'm trying not to check my stories right now. I'm trying not to check my stories right now. I keep trying to check my stories, blah, blah. Like literally just gibberish in your journal because you will be feeling uncomfortable. But the reason we're avoiding is because we don't want to sit in our body, right? And so using this tactic of replacing it with something else is not ideal because it's not really getting us 100% there. But we are still going to experience some discomfort in our body because we're not doing the thing our body wants us to do. The thing that our body wants us to do is to numb the feeling. And right now, you've trained yourself to numb the feeling using Instagram story views. And again, this can be anything. This can be food. This can be shopping. This could be like trying to get attention. That text message that I suggested you do, that could be an avoidance technique of like trying to make a bid for attention because you can't sit with your own feelings, right? Anything can be harmful to us if the reason we're doing it is harmful. What you're teaching yourself, though, by delaying through replacement is I can feel this urge and do something different. So you're not sitting with the full amount of the discomfort yet, but you are redirecting it, which is progress, and it's the first step. This allows you to prove to yourself that the urge to check does not have to actually lead to checking. You're strong enough to delay it even through some sort of replacement. This is how you get started. But level 2 comes in when you can delay without distracting yourself. The added benefit of doing it without distraction is you're getting in touch with your body. So set a timer for 2, 5, 10, however many minutes you want to do this. And I recommend you keep working your way up to more minutes and just try to be still and check what you're feeling. Do a scan of where the tension is showing up because it's usually located in a specific spot for specific people. A lot of fear around our emotions is actually fear of being in touch with our bodies. I know I like to pretend my body doesn't have any needs because, quite frankly, they're a lot of work. Bodies are a lot of work. I don't, and I have like trauma around my body, as most of us do. Anytime you're avoiding a feeling, you're avoiding your body and being in touch with the physical. And that's something I am working on for myself right now. With levels 1 and 2, you're telling yourself that you can check after a designated amount of time. So it gives you that built-in relief. Like sitting with your body is going to be really uncomfortable, but you have built-in relief that eventually the discomfort will end because you can check after a certain number of minutes. But just teach yourself that you can sit with the discomfort. You're not going to die. It's going to suck, but you're going to be okay. Level 3 is the true exposure. So you're delaying without the promise of checking. And this is the hardest one to do. You're sitting with the discomfort and you're denying yourself the possibility of relief. So this level is kind of like 3 ways to practice it. And I want you to choose what works for you. It may be different depending on the day. Option A is where we delay without checking afterwards. So you're basically doing everything in level 2, but you're not allowing yourself to check later. You're just going to keep setting a timer until the feeling goes away. So you want to set the timer, sit with your body, and figure out where the feeling is. And you do that for as long as you need to. So even if the timer goes off and you feel like you can't go back to what you were doing before, like you can't concentrate, whatever it is, it's still preoccupying you, go back into that meditative stillness of checking in with your body. That is probably like the most advanced way of doing it because, like I said, we want to avoid our bodies. All of this has to do with avoiding feelings, and the feelings are happening in our body. So option A is actually the hardest option of this level. Option B is where you set specific times to check and you're actively reducing the frequency between checking. So this is where you're intentionally creating long stretches between when you're allowed to check. So set a specific time. It could be like when you get off the bus in the morning, or when you're waiting for your lunch to finish microwaving, or you're brushing your teeth, or something like that. Like you're setting 1 to 3 times throughout the day to give yourself an opportunity to check. And that's it. You have to sit with the discomfort outside of those time periods. And you can use other techniques to sit with the discomfort, but it sort of gives you this grace period of, I know I'm going to be able to check when I brush my teeth. So I just need to get through the day and I will be able to do that in the evening or something like that. It could be both when you're brushing in the morning and the evening, whatever it is. When the urge hits outside of those times, you're going to set the timer and you're going to sit with your feelings. You can even delay if you really need to. So you're doing multiple hours of delay and don't check between your scheduled times. Option C is removing access entirely. So this could be deleting your app off your phone. It could be getting one of those blocking apps. That's what I've done for myself, not because I have Instagram story preoccupations, but I just had scrolling issues, as we all do, right? So I got an app that allows me to block it from my phone. Nothing bad will happen to you. It will just be a little uncomfortable. The goal here is to prove to yourself that you can tolerate uncertainty. And I want you to remind yourself of that every chance you get. This is about trusting yourself to get past the uncertainty and the discomfort. Now that you know why you keep checking who viewed your story, you need to understand why you always seem to care more than everyone else around you. So I recommend you watch this video next, and I will break all of that down for you. Thank you so much for getting to the end. I really, really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and check out my newsletter, Notes on Growth, where I talk about what I'm learning in real time. Thank you so much. Bye.